Good morning, everybody. Let me get this a little bit closer. Avi, Claudie, come on outside. It's a great honor and a tremendous pleasure for me to be in the home of Claudie and Avi Hulu this Sunday morning. We've been fortunate in a couple of ways, maybe many ways. One of the ways we've been fortunate is as the summer progresses and as we go through, that's our I was going to say brothers from another mother, but then I'm not going to start that now. Let's put it this way. Let them do their thing. Let them do their thing. We know where they came from. Yeah. Avi and Claudie, I've been in your homes a few times now, and it's very rare that somebody has a charity event and then another one, and another one, and another one. And it's very heartwarming to see that, because most people in our community unfortunately never have their home opened, and we want to teach them, and we want to show them. And I think that you and your wife lead by example, where the doors to your homes in Brooklyn and here in Jersey are open. They're open all the time for Chesed, to help different institutions, different organizations throughout our global Jewish community. Not just locally for our Sephardic organizations, as we've had events. But this one is very intriguing, because as you listen to Zelig Friedman and his team, and you see what they do and how they go about it, and to think that Harry Ajmi has never had the microphone, nor has the great Rabbi Eli Mansour, to speak about Tanzers. One day they'll tell me where they got that name from. working on a new logo for them. So I spoke to them for 20 minutes. In what language? I'm Syrian, I don't speak Yiddish, but I get it. I have enough friends today, as does Avi, in Williamsburg, Monsey, especially Borough Park. Rabbi Eli will attest to that. Being who we are, we gotta know everybody, and everybody should know us. And if they don't, well, that's their loss. But we're happy to host them this morning. We're happy to listen and learn and hear more about the wonderful, wonderful work that I've been told that they do, directly and indirectly. Indirectly was from a young lady. I don't have the right to say her name at this moment, but what they did for her and her family and her son that was not well. And nobody knows, God forbid, lo alenu, until you know. And then once they know, they understand the value of Tanzers. They understand the value of Zelig and his team and what they represent, what they do. And they do it from, again, the sense that I got. You can't get to know somebody too well in 20 minutes. But they do it without any fanfare. They actually, most of the time, want nothing in return. They want nothing back but to put a smile on that family, the siblings, the parents, the grandparents, and especially they focus on the child that may be ill. And that is very special, both at home and in the hospitals. And I take my yarmulke off to you guys for the work you do, how you go about it. It's just unbelievable. And now I understand better why Avi told me to come early and why Avi told me I should know you. And know you I do want to. So, with no further ado, We want to move along. As I said on Friday, because we're having a 3-day run, I think it goes all the way this week. The weather is gorgeous. Yesterday, besides being Tu B'Av, and I'm sure that you went up for Shishi, I stood next to Rabbi Nahum, right there. Rabbi, I was holding on to him. At one point, I was hugging him, and I watched, because when you're not reading, it wasn't my aliyah, and you see his face when he was talking about when Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu about the Shabbat. And you see a giant, a great man like Hamed Mon, and you saw the way he was reading from the Sefer and the enjoyment, the hana'ah that he got from seeing what we've been gifted. And it's on Shabbat, and you're reading about the Shabbat, and he's up there, and there I am holding on to him for dear life. I was nervous. I don't get nervous, but I was nervous. So, with no further ado, I've introduced him, as I said this year, 4 times, because he's had events, God bless him. Avi doesn't like any fanfare. Claudie doesn't want any fanfare for herself or her husband. Everybody knows in the community what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they represent, the care and love that they have for their fellow Jew, both here in Brooklyn, Israel, and I guess Avi's reach goes to any Jew anywhere in the world. You just got to contact him, and his heart, it doesn't need a hot day to melt. It melts any day of the year, 365 days of the year, because that's what he is. That's who he is. I've watched what he did for Rabbi Ozeri in the beginning, the middle, and the end, struggling to build that building next door. We should have been able to build it in an hour. But Hashem makes things, it doesn't make them easy. Rabbi, you know. Tell me about it. Yeah, we're going to make a song about tell me about it. But you know what? It comes to fruition. Avi got his name outside. I got my name inside. And it's just a beautiful extension. He couldn't have done it without you. He's in Israel for his birthday. He calls me Wednesday. And he had the flight on Wednesday. He knows how the 3 of us love him and everyone else in the community. And he said, I'm not going. I said, you're not going. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was in that position. I said, you're going. And here I am talking to the great Rabbi David Ozeri. You're going. I don't want to go. I said, Rabbi, you're going to Israel. It's your birthday. Your kids are there. And your wife's waiting for you over there. You want trouble? And he never answered. But I spoke to him from the airport, because he's so attached, as you are, Rabbi, as you are connected to our people, our community, and what you give back, and what he gives back, and what every rabbi is giving back to us. We are so lucky. We are so fortunate. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world but the Syrian Jewish community, both here in Deal and Brooklyn, watching all the great things that go on. Avi, don't sit back down. I'd like you, for a couple of minutes. No, it's your house. It wouldn't be nice. But you know what? You could be co-MC, and you could invite Joey up, and then the rabbi, okay? So I think for the opening of this great morning, I will call on my friend, a man that I respect, that I've grown to adore. He knows that. He knows the trust we have for each other. When we need something, and won't go any further than that, we have each other on speed dial for those situations and moments, and they come often, and we're there to support each other. Mostly, it's a little bit of business, a little bit of advice, but it's mostly charity. It's mostly tzedakah, giving money and giving our time and effort back to the great community that we were put into. I wouldn't have it any other way. I speak for Avi. I don't think he would either. Come on up.
First of all, thank you, Harry. I think I said every single time, maybe the 10th time already that I'm speaking, saying it, but God bless you. Our community is very lucky to have Harry. It's only one of a kind. And I don't know how he has the time or energy to do it. Harry, you should try the cold plunge. I don't actually know, it's scary, you on the cold plunge. But really, I don't know how he has the time and energy to do it. And he's by every single event. God bless him, and we're a very lucky community to have him. First and foremost, really thank you for my wife, like Harry said. Claudie, thank you very much. Countless events, and there's never a no. I book it before I even tell her, just knowing that she says, of course. So thank you so much, Claudie, and really appreciate it. There's no one like you, really. Thank you, of course, also for the rabbi and for everyone attending. Really appreciate you coming and taking your time on a Sunday morning, beautiful Sunday morning, gorgeous weather. I know there's a lot of events, a lot of things to do. Really appreciate it. When I think, I'm trying to remember, I think was it Sydney first who wanted me to meet with, no, I'm sorry, Joey Haboba maybe was first. And Zelig reached out to me a few times, and I didn't answer him because there's so many communities, so many organizations, and I never even heard of what's Tantzers. Like Harry said, I mean, I know Tanzers dance, but I didn't know what Tanzers is all about. And Zelig said, don't worry, I promise you, you'll be very happy if you meet me. I'm not going to waste your time. You're going to love the organization. I said, okay, now's not a good time, but we'll meet with Hashem. Joey then harassed me, and then Sydney, I guess, was the closer. And I sat down and I said, okay, let's sit down with Zelig. I sat down with Zelig. Where is Zelig? Oh, back there, sitting in the back, of course, for a few minutes. And as I'm sitting with him, telling him, what's the organization about? He said, it's about, we started off actually, how'd you start? Tell me a little bit about the organization. And correct me if I'm wrong, Zelig. But he said basically they started off, how many years ago? It was about 10 years ago? 12 years ago. 12 years ago, there was a wedding and a chuppah, and the mother of the bride, right, was very sick. So they went to the mother wanted to be there for the chuppah, and she couldn't make it to chuppah because she was terminally ill, and they decided to go do the chuppah at the wedding, at the hospital, and then they were going to go do the chuppah, go celebrate the wedding. Is that correct? So they did the chuppah and the kiddushin, and unfortunately, did the mother pass away right after, or she was just very sick? And after the hospital, they had to go celebrate and go dance and celebrate the wedding. And obviously, after those circumstances, people just couldn't celebrate, they couldn't dance. It's very difficult from going to something so sad and going to dance. So Zelig heard about it, and him and his partner, Alav Shalom, actually his partner was niftar, right? He said he was on the way back from an event. He got into a car accident. He was in a coma for 7-8 years, and he passed away 2 years ago. All right, so they gathered a whole bunch of guys to go dance and got together to make a simcha, so to cheer the Chatan and Kala after coming back from the hospital. And he continued proceeding, telling me, he's like, okay, but I thought you said the organization's for cancer children. He said, yeah, it's for kids with cancer. I said, okay, for kids with cancer. So he started telling me more and more stories, and different stories of, I'm like, but this is not a kid with cancer. Oh, it's an adult. It says bottom line, I saw after a few minutes that really Zelig had just a heart and a special neshama that he just wanted to help any single Jewish person. And he told me, like, one of the things that they do, which I thought was so beautiful, is they go to the hospital to these kids with cancer, and they go there, they teach them, they have a magician that goes once a week, or is it twice now? Twice now? On staff, a magician on staff that goes once or twice a week to all the hospitals, all the local hospitals, and all Jewish kids with cancer, they go there and they teach them magic tricks to cheer them up, and they give them a magic kit. So they could go ahead and they teach the nurses and their parents, and they get so proud showing the staff and showing them, making them that they have a magic trick to teach them. And kept on telling me story after story, and like I said, really, I just saw he's a special person, and I wasn't wasting my time, and I was glad I met with him. Anyhow, as we're speaking, he started off with Ashkenazim and Borough Park and different communities in the Hasid, and he started naming name after name after name in the Syrian community. Unfortunately, mainstream families, even plenty of mainstream families that we all know, that unfortunately, Lo Aleinu had someone sick in the family with cancer, either a child, a parent, or anything. And telling me about how they go, even not just to cheer them up in the hospital, they go afterwards when they come home, because no one should ever know. It tears the family apart even more than the child suffering. No one suffers more than a parent seeing their child suffering. And he would go in the house and cheer them up when the kids come home, throw parties, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, whatever it may be. but he kept on naming more and more mainstream families and names. And I said, okay, so it's not just Ashkenazim, you're doing a ton of the community as well. So he said yes, and actually that's why I wanted to meet you. We're interested in opening a Sephardi division, which focuses just on the Syrian community, because unfortunately the need and demand is arising much more, and we can't sustain it. We can't sustain the Syrian community without a separate division. So we sat, we spoke, and we met, and we decided to open a Sephardi division. And basically, really, the funding and everything that's going to that, just so everyone knows, really, it's going strictly, there's no salaries or anything, no expenses or anything. So anything that we raise or that he raises for the Sephardi, specifically for the Syrian community, for kids and families that are suffering from cancer or other horrible situations that no one should know. And it's going directly, every dollar is going just to help these families. And really, he's a special person, him and his whole crew, and tzaddikim, malachim, I should really say. And hopefully no one ever needs it, but Bezat Hashem, if they do, hopefully we'll be able to be there to help them. Zelig and his crew, it should be able to help them. Without further ado, I'd really love to call Rabbi Joey first. Yeah? Joey Shami, who can share a little bit of his own experience with Zelig and the team.
Not as tall as you, Avi. 1 minute. Hold on. Let me stand up here and all that. First of all, Avi, Claudia, nobody like the two of you. Every institution, every area, you are there to help us all out, to help the community grow, and you care about everybody across the board. And I'm in awe of you, and God bless you. You should always be able to prosper and do well. So about 8 years ago, my friend Eddie Baranoff calls me up and he says, I got this guy that does parties for kids with cancer, and he needs a place. Thought about it, I said, no problem. I have my rooftop at Delta, which we do a lot of chesed on. My brother and I have been very blessed to be able to have that. And before I know it, we have 200 kids with cancer on and their siblings on a rooftop. Clowns, God Elbaz as a singer, an amazing event that brought joy to these children who are in despair, and no one should know from it. Okay, so now I'm debating on sharing my own personal story with it. I think it's worth it for you to understand who this man is. A few months later, I get a WhatsApp with some pictures. I'm not even sure what they are. I literally forgot about the event because we've been doing. And I see that's my rooftop. Oh, that's the event. Holy cow. And I happened to be at that time going through the worst moments of my life, not sure what my future would be. So I send a text to Zelig. I said, Zelig, do you know so-and-so? He calls me up a second later. What's your problem? And I explained to him what I was going through. Before you know it, he ends up gets me an appointment with Dr. Zalewski. I get to Dr. Zalewski, and he says, okay, my rabbi called me, the head of the RCCS called me, my son's rabbi in Israel called me. I got the message. I'm taking over your case. And thanks to Zelig, he saved my life. And so this man is a very, very special individual. I'll fast forward to continue what he does. We did another event on the rooftop for the parents of these kids who really, I won't say they have no joy in their life, but they're at their lowest life. Their children are suffering. And he says, we need to do an event for them. So we did an event for them. We had a beautiful 6-star dinner for them set up on the rooftop again. And then I could go on and on. He would call me. He says, I got this bar mitzvah kid. I got this newborn. I got whatever it may be. He brings joy to the people that are in the lowest points of their life. He raises them up. And I should say, I said, excuse me, guys. It's the entire Tanzer team. They are amazing. And God bless them. And as Avi alluded to, really, I'm sorry to say, sickness, cancer, so forth, it knows no income level. You could think that you're in the healthiest point, you think you're in the best point of your life, and shock comes to your life. and these guys are there to bring some joy to it. God bless them. Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Like the one and only Rabbi Mansour, to please say a few words for the crowd. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
I'm good. Good morning, everybody. So before I begin, I was sitting with Stephen and he asked me, did you ever hear of the organization? I said, I can't even pronounce it. But that's neither here or there. Doesn't matter what the name is or how to pronounce it or what language it's in. We're a result-oriented community. A lot of you people are businessmen. We just care about the bottom line anyway, so call it whatever you want. One word about our host and hostess, with the mostest. Although I don't have a charitable relationship with Avi, I'm sure that'll evolve one day. And I'm anticipating very quickly. Oh, Mag and David. I take that back. I have a very prosperous relationship with Avi. We did value Yeshiva. That's right. I mean, personally. In any event, but I do have a relationship, and I saw a very good side of the man, which is more impressive to me than anything. The Gemara says when you're trying to measure people's character, look at the small things. Look at the things that people overlook. Try to find the humility, then you know everything about the guy. He made a big bar mitzvah for his boy in our synagogue in Lawrence Avenue. And like a real proper bar mitzvah, all the NBA was there and all the tzaddikim, the Lamed Vav tzaddikim showed up. And, with all the paraphernalia and jerseys and all the good stuff. And it was a beautiful event. I'm so happy we could have these parties in our shul. And my son, who happened to get somehow a third-hand invitation, he was there. And he didn't come home with any booty, any loot. And somehow Avi found out about it. I'm not too sure how. And the next day, you believe it, he comes himself. He's a busy man. He's running businesses and stuff. He comes himself to the house with a basketball, with a jersey, with a thing. Okay, where's Jacob? And he delivers it person. To me, that says the whole story. Now, the big things have value because of that. I know a lot of wealthy people, and the only thing that's greater than their bank account is their egos, which make them very intolerable people, and people that are not so liked. So my first impressions are the ones that I'm always going to remember. And B'ezrat Hashem, as our relationship continues to grow, I'm sure I'll have a better window into the gentle giant that sits in front of us and his great Rebbitzin. Regarding our great master of ceremony, Mr. Ajmi, who is a dear friend, he's such a good man. In America, they say charity begins at home. In our community, charity begins with Harry Ajmi. And it actually begins with him, it ends with him, and he's the middle as well. I bless my good friend with good health and prosperity. I want you to all know he doesn't get paid for this. Might be a good idea if he would take $1 for every event, he would be very wealthy just on that alone. To his credit, not only does he come and not ask for compensation, he actually gives, and he gives very generously, and he gives happily. So credit to our great Mr. Ajmi, chairman of the board. We're finding a trending, that a lot of organizations run by Ashkenazim, bless them, are servicing the Syrian community. This is, I think, the third event that I've gone to this year that this trend has happened. We went to Eshel Shabbat. Now, Eshel Shabbat is synonymous with Hesed. I know it well. And they're just giving out or Tomchei Shabbat, Tomchei Shabbos, as they say in the vernacular. And they're giving food. Who knew that they're giving out hundreds of families in deal? So all of a sudden they come along and say, we can't sustain that item, the deal chapter of it. And sure enough, the community rises up to take care of that. Hesed 24/7. I was in Mount Sinai. My Rebbitzin had a little procedure. And of course, I escorted her there, and it was a 12-hour ordeal there, but Baruch Hashem, everything's fine. And I cannot tell you, when I was in the hospital, and I'm looking at that board at 24/7 of all the names and all the Syrians. So I said, well, these guys were not Syrians. The guys who were loading up the kitchen had beards down to the floor, hats up to the shamayim and all that, white socks. Didn't look anything like Syrians. But they're servicing the people, so therefore we have to step up. So now we hear that Tanzers, as they call it, and as Avi and Mr. Shami mentioned, how many, unfortunately, of our people. I mean, sickness forget about economic. It doesn't discriminate between Sephardi, Ashkenazim, whatever you are. And that's unfortunate. I want to explain to you, in my opinion, humble opinion, what the value of what these guys are doing. So we have a mitzvah. The mitzvah is called Bikur Holim. Everybody knows Bikur Holim. But I think that because we've heard that word so many times, we stopped paying attention of these two words. We don't pay Bikur Holim, oh yeah, visiting the sick, taking care of the sick. But pay attention. Usually, you visit one sick person at a time. I mean, you don't make a collective visit. I mean, you go into the room, there's one patient on the bed. So why does the term refer to it in its plurality? Bikur Holim. It should say Bikur Holeh. And of course, Bikur Holeh many times over. But why is it Bikur Holim? So I wanted to say a novel idea in honor of the good people of Tanzers. What I think is that when somebody is sick in a family, there are many other people in the family that are also sick but go unnoticed. The obvious sick person is the patient that's laid up in the bed that's going through his medical treatment. However, there's a non-apparent effect and casualty, collateral damage, that takes place to the whole family. If a husband is tied up, it affects his wife. And if the wife is affected, it affects the children. And it affects the grandchildren. And the whole chemistry and the whole balance of a family. I mean, families are very fragile. It doesn't take too much to throw off a family off kilter. And God forbid, when a beloved person is going through a crisis, the family is thrown into peril. And therefore, I think the rabbis were telling us not to look at this mitzvah myopically. Do not just look at the choleh, but whenever there's a choleh, there's holim. And therefore, to fulfill the mitzvah correctly, you cannot only deal with the one that's sick. You need to do a comprehensive job and take care of the holim. And I think, not for the first time, but it's a breath of fresh air to see this again, that this organization has identified what was not obvious to everybody. Everybody knows the choleh, but to the credit of Zelig and his holy group, they have identified the holim. Kudos to you. You're doing the mitzvah in the perfect way and in the correct way. Finally, I will not belabor you with long dirash, although I do have all day long for an organization like this. And I'll tell you why. I made once an observation in the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. There the Mishnah says, was the second Mishnah, that the world stands on three pillars. Ala Torah, Val Avodah, Val Gemilut Hasadim. And we all know that these three pillars correspond the primary traits of the three fathers, the Avot. Avraham is Chesed. Yitzhak represented prayer. He himself was a sacrifice. Today we pray instead of bringing the korbanot. And Yaakov Abinu was Emet. Yaakov Abinu was Torah. So actually, if you follow the sequence of the Avot, it's Chesed, Avodah, Torah. Why does the Mishnah put it out of order? The Mishnah says, Al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed, ala Torah, that's Yaakov. V'al Avodah, that's Yitzhak. V'al gemilut hasadim is Avraham. Why is Avraham last? He should be first. It's a strong question. In your honor, I would like to say again a novel interpretation. These interpretations are intellectual property, I'll have you know, and they are trademarked. So please, before you put it in a video or in a movie, I'd like you to speak to me first. In any event, the explanation is that I don't think the Mishnah is giving us the chronological order of the Avot. As a matter of fact, I know the Mishnah is not giving us the chronological order of the Avot, but it's giving us the chronological story of the Jewish people and what the world is going to look like from the beginning of time until Mashiach comes. There's going to be a generation of Torah, and there's going to be a great level of capacity and understanding and genius I think that great generation of Torah was the generation of the Mishnah. It was the generation of the Gemara. We'll never replicate that generation. As a matter of fact, our opinion is Rishonim kemal achim. The earlier rabbis are like angels, and we are like Bnei Adam. We are simple. We cannot hold a candle against the authority and the genius and the intellect of the previous generation. So I think, although we have a lot of Torah, don't get me wrong, it's quantitative, but it cannot stand the quality of the previous generation of Torah. And then you have the next generation. That was the time the temple stood. That was Avodah. If you saw the temple in its glory, you saw what service of God means. People were coming and bringing sacrifice. They were bowing, they were praying, they were supplicating. I wonder, today we have beautiful synagogues. We have magnificent edifices. We have beautiful, beautiful places of worship. And Baruch Hashem, they're all filled. We need more. However, we may question, Baruch Haba, we may question, is the kavanah of our prayers anywhere near the kavanah of the earlier generations? In our generation, we measure a minyan by its speed. We measure a shul not from when the minyan starts, but when it ends. And the more we're able to skip in a prayer, the happier we are. You know, if we're so lucky to get a Yehishem, that's about 2.5 minute save. Gives us a lot of time to spend out of shul. So again, I didn't come to condemn our people, but we have shuls, we pray, but we can't compare our prayers to the previous generations. I mean, our sidurim, we pray minimum kavanah and last in, first out. However, there's going to come a generation where we might not be able to boast our Torah to the levels of the previous generation, and we might not be able to say that we're the best mechuvanim in prayer. But there's going to be one generation, which is ours, where we're actually going to be able to look at our ancestors and say, in this, not only have we met expectation, but we have actually exceeded expectation. Our calling before the Mashiach is not going to be necessarily Torah or Avodah. In the final generation, it is going to be Gemilut Hasadim. And this, an organization like this, our grandparents didn't do this. I have no doubt my grandfather and great-grandfather, they could learn a Mishnah and a Gemara 10 times better than me. I surrender. My great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather, Acham Yosef Mansour, used to pray with the Siddur of the Kabbalists. There's no question he has more kavanah than me. And I'm not being pretentious or obnoxious. But when it comes to chesed, they didn't have this. They didn't have the wherewithal. They didn't have the technology. They didn't have the ability to network like these organizations are able to do. It's nothing to do. They had the good heart, and I'm sure they had the intention. But the actual ability for this to materialize, for this to actualize into something that is a reality, they didn't have it. So although we might not be able to hold our heads that high when it comes to Torah or Avodah, but the final generation that ushers in Mashiach, it's all about Gemilut Hasadim. So you're involved in not only dancing for sick kids, you're going to be involved in the most important dance of all. When the Mashiach comes, this organization is in a transition. There's not going to be any more sick people. But I believe that we learned yesterday in the Shi'ur, Atid HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'asot mahol la-sadikim, that God is going to make a dance for all the sadikim, and He's going to be right in the middle. And everybody in that circular dance, I think they call it the hora. It's not going to be a square dance. It's not going to be the polka. It's going to be mahol. And everybody's going to point to God and say, Zeh Hashem, this is the God we were waiting for. Nagila v'nismecha b'shoato. We're waiting to rejoice in His salvation. Well, I think I can't tell you everybody that's going to be in that circle, but I have a hunch, and I'm not a betting man. I would venture to say that some of the good people at Tanzers, the dance that they've started today in the pre-Messianic period is going to earn them a position in that ultimate dance of the dance of Mashiach. And at that time, Borei Olam will be Rofeh Cholei Amo Yisrael, and the dance of compensation that we're doing now will be the dance of consolation. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I pray that our community recognizes that we're being helped. And if we're being helped, we have to rise to the occasion. Thank you very much. suitable for rabbis?
4 years ago, out of nowhere, my husband was diagnosed with leukemia. We ended up in the hospital. We were there an entire year.
My son was diagnosed with a glioblastoma. His brain was bleeding, and he got rushed to the hospital, and he needed to have like 4 surgeries to just stabilize him.
Summer of 2017, I was blessed to be able to host a great event for children with cancers. Again, we had 200 kids on our rooftop. 4 or 5 months later, I got diagnosed.
When we hear that somebody isn't well, our automatic thought is, are they going to live? And if the prognosis is that they're going to live, so a lot of us just like take it out of our mind and we move forward. Maybe we say Tehillim for the person. What people don't realize is the journey is intense. And the journey requires help in so many different ways.
They don't realize how much it tears the whole entire family. And a parent suffers more than the child himself when they're going through, when they see their child hurting.
Out of the blue, I get this phone call. It was about a month after my husband was diagnosed, and it's this guy Zelig, and he wanted to do something special for my kids who were going, through a medical challenge with my husband. He threw this amazing party. He brought this guy that, was blowing up balloons. He brought musicians, a magician, and tons of food. And he really brought simcha to my kids.
Zelig called me like that second day or whatever when my head was all over the place, and he's like, we want to come over. I'm like, I can't even focus right now. He's like, just let me come. I'm sending people, and like they just showed up at my house. They came dancing, magicians, clowns, just toys, singing, dancing with my son.
Next thing you know, he calls me up, what's your problem, Joey? I explained to him what I was going through. Before you know it, I was getting calls from various doctors and influential Jewish people. And when I got to see Dr. Zalewski, who's the top radiation guy, he says to me, I got the message. You're an important person who I must take care of.
As a volunteer for Tanzers and as a middleman between a lot of people in our community and Zelig, I do get feedback, and the feedback is always so positive. The feedback is always, what did we do before Tanzers? How did we survive what we went through? How did we get through this without Zelig calling us up and saying, what do you need? And sending these events to their house, from food to entertainment to balloon guys to magicians to fire in the mouth and sword throwing.
A few months after that, it was time for my daughter's bat mitzvah. He found out about it, and he called me and said, what could we do for you? The party that they threw was insane. There wasn't a dry eye in the party. Everybody was so emotional. There was food, or a DJ. He made these magnets of pictures for all the girls.
They would bring all kinds of puppets and swords in the mouth and fire, to the point where like I would call Zelig and I'm like, send the boys, like would come, send guys no matter what, whenever I asked.
So like this past October was my son's bar mitzvah, and it's been a few years since my husband passed, and he showed up that morning with his volunteers, and it was so special.
Zelig is a person I can't even describe. He is so hopeful and bright, but at the same time, he's with you in the pain and in the fear.
They're looking for chesed to do. They pick up the phone, who could we help, what could we do? And they go above and beyond.
He's doing every event without asking for $1. And now is our turn to help him out and get these events continuing, because these families can't live without it. They can't get through these challenging times without Zelig. I've seen it this way and I've seen it that way, and the difference is undescribable.
To see a child, any child smiling, for me is just amazing, but especially a child who's going through a hard time, to see a child who's suffering smiling, that means so much more.
So the journey of getting someone well and the journey of going through a difficult time is not just about where it's headed and what the result is going to be. It's about making the process as positive and as energized, as happy as possible. That's the goal, and that's the mission of Tanzers.
So if you're ever in a medical situation, a medical struggle, and you need someone to uplift you, Tanzers is who you need to call. They're probably gonna pick up the phone and find you before you even, try to find them. Really, Zelig, Tanzers, everyone at Tanzers, what you're doing is incredible. For me, my kids, my family will never forget.
Zelig and the Tanzers have a special gift. They know how to bring joy and laughter to those people that are most distressed and in need, changing their lives, changing their perspective. If you have an opportunity to be able to support them, I promise you, you are doing one of the biggest mitzvahs out there.
Zelig, you want to come up, please? I think it's appropriate that everybody puts a face to the name of the founder of Tanzers.
I think we're going to call the Syrian division Tantzers.
We're going to be Tanzer.
Tanz. Well, I guess the Syrian division would be called Tantzers.
Ladies and gentlemen, these three men are responsible for getting out there throughout the year, throughout the last 12 years of going to hospitals, somewhere we never want to be, to people's homes in their most distressful times, somewhere I don't have the guts to walk into. I'm a softie. I can't take it. But they have the courage and they have the strength to go in and make things just that much better under the circumstances that families are going through. So we want to all thank you. Thank you for coming out today. Thank you for exposing yourselves to our community. This should be the first of many times we meet, and many times until the coming of the Mashiach, which I was telling my rabbi that I just have a feeling with everything that's going on in the world and everything that's going on in Israel today, and the countries that are screaming out against Israel, Mashiach is definitely here, no longer on the doorsteps. I believe he's arrived, and I believe that means that we have to do, like Rabbi Eli said, that much more chesed. All of us, every single one of us, has to put out more. So, to Avi, to Joey, to Rabbi Eli, thank you for walking us through the concept of, it's not easy to talk about an organization that we didn't know before and that now we know. So what I want to do now is I'd like our community to give financial support to this organization. They have a budget of $1.2 million. I don't know how Avi's going to break out the Sephardic division from the other divisions. I'm going to leave that to him. He knows how to do that. But I love the idea. I love the concept that you want to carve out, because lo alenu, it is becoming more and more obvious that the need for them to show up on the doorsteps and in these hospital rooms where they don't take no for an answer, by the way. Sometimes doctors and nurses don't want people coming around, but he doesn't know no. And you should never know no. You should always do. You should always do. What you believe in your heart is the right thing. So let's raise some money for Tanzers. Let's start to give you some financial support. I'll take a couple of minutes with the great people of this community that week in and week out, all year long, including every Shabbat and every synagogue, we host fundraisers and we help and we help and we help. And we want to continue to do that and be known as that kind of people. People of Hesed, people that are not just giving their money, but also giving of their time, which I always call the most valuable asset, and that it is. And we want to give more and more of that when needed. Like my friend Joey Shami, who will open his roof, him and his brother will open their rooftop as many times as necessary. Give him a day's notice, only because he wants to prepare. Not for any other reason than he could do it that day, but he might want to put some refreshments out.